Veterinary medicine doesn't need work-life balance. It needs blank.
Yeah, life, career, integration, and sustainability. And notice I put life first.
Yes.
Because, there's work, but literally your life comes first.
So we are always striving for perfection because we've been programmed to believe that that is what gives us the result that we want. And sure, it does. But when it is really challenging that we can't turn it off. So this sounds so little, but I would catch myself. I'd be typing up discharge notes and I'm like, why am I typing this up again? Right? Like, to say I should have a template for this, but I'm just going to type it up. Or I could have my technician who knows the whole case and what's going on do this very quickly. But I was a perfectionist and I'm like, they're not going to do it right. It's actually going to be easy. Like, I gaslit myself into thinking it's easier if I do it myself.
And I think a lot of the Gen Zers are disruptors, but they just haven't been out long enough to disrupt them.
Right. Totally agree. Yeah.
You know, the millennials just kind of, they're just like, oh, work-life balance. Where the Gen Zers are like, this is a bunch of bullshit.
Right. What have you been doing? Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Irreplaceable Truths. I am very excited today. I am talking with Dr. Amber Parks. She's the stress and burnout coach. She's a retired veterinarian. And just like a few of us, she decided that she needed to come back and do more for the profession. But unfortunately, the clinics just were a little too much for us at that point. We feel as if we're better off and better serving, helping younger veterinarians learn the playbook. And by learning the playbook, I mean, how did we get through it? How did we learn to do things? What are ways we used? What are things we used to cope? So basically, Dr. Amber Parks, welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Yes. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. I'm gonna, before we get into your history, I'm gonna put you right out there. We're going to go for it.
Okay.
I know this made you flinch because we had a meeting about it, but it makes a lot of people flinch when people discuss work-life balance. You said it's your trigger, one of your trigger phrases, right? Why does it miss the mark so badly?
I think two ways. One is that it seems like it's this holy grail. We have to obtain this thing and we have to overdo everything in order to get this thing. And I think it's like homeostasis, right? Homeostasis is not just a place like our body gets to and we sit there. It's constantly tweaking and moving and adjusting. And that's really what finding that balance is. But it's not something that I think needs to be, if we have this life work balance, then we have this, which is happiness. And it doesn't work like that. It's not that clear cut.
It isn't, because work and life have two different balances. They're two separate beasts. And just because you think on a Tuesday you found work-life balance does not mean you're going to have work-life balance on Thursday.
Right. 100%.
Right? Yeah. And I've argued the same. I think veterinary medicine doesn't have a work-life balance problem. I think it has a professional sustainability problem. And that's an article that you and I have worked on, and I'm excited for when it comes out. But it basically deals with how do you sustain living as far as being a husband, wife, partner, father, mother, Girl Scout troop leader, and a veterinarian at the same time. And it's not easy. It's a grind. So what does the phrase sustainability, if someone would ask you, Dr. Parks, what does sustainability mean to you? What would you say?
Yeah, I think it's a variation, right? Like you said, if you have other roles in your life as like a spouse and a parent, even if that's a pet parent, and there's times that we're more focused on that than our role as a veterinarian and vice versa. And so I think it's having the flexibility to go back and forth and find what works for you. And it's different for everyone in terms of what your responsibilities are, what really lights you up, what stresses you out. And so it's identifying what those things are so you can find the sustainability.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's and it's not an easy answer, and it's not a cookbook type answer. It is not a one size fits all answer.
right, right.
Everyone has different things, but especially when it comes to the emotional demands of the profession, what your professional identity truly is, and by professional identity, I mean values.
Mhm.
And it also has to do a lot, I think, with emotional intelligence as well. How can you read the room? Can handle your emotions? Do you know how to reset your emotions? Which is hard because we're all human.
Right.
Um, and a perfect example is, especially nowadays, what if someone smears you online?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do about that? And there's no coaching on that in veterinary school.
No, no. And you know what's funny that you bring that up is, and granted, when you're that person in that position, all shit, goes out the window.
Yes,
But,
exactly.
like you're kind of like, ah, but let's just look at it for what it is. It's someone, so a client, whomever, who has an opinion about you as another person. Like when you strip everything away, we put so much weight into that. And I get, there can be a lot of keyboard warriors and they just go off and you're like, there's my entire career going down the drain. But I think we can get more, and I've seen it better now, but being more aggressive in terms of addressing that. We've kind of been, at least I know I won't say trained, but I was exposed to like the idea and the concept that the customer is always right. And that has been detrimental in veterinary medicine. And we are the most unique profession because I believe we have a professional healthcare practice, right? Nothing's perfect. And then we have the idea of a business, like a client-based business. People, for the most part, are paying out of pocket. And now we meld those two together, and shit is going to hit the fan. There's going to be stuff that goes wrong, and we're just like in a different bracket of having to feel like we have to cater sometimes to those people. They're paying out of pocket. And now I don't want my reputation ruined. So it puts us in a really challenging spot. But I think when we address that, especially as a whole for a profession, it normalizes it for a lot of others that maybe aren't comfortable enough to address the crap.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head when it comes to emotional labor. That's the true definition, right? Service with a smile.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we have to fake it. And that
Yeah.
actually takes more energy than to truly feel it from the bottom of your heart. Like, I really, truly do care. I mean, you do truly care every time you walk into an exam room, but there are clients that will suck that out of you.
Yeah.
And
Very,
you're just like,
very
what is it going to
fast.
take for me to keep this person happy? And how do I get it out of this exam room as quickly as possible?
Yeah. Been there so many times. Yes.
Yeah. Towards the end of my career, it was there. It was there.
Oh,
I'd like
yeah.
the anxiety, panic attacks. Like, okay, I got to get out of here. I'm about to lose it. I don't want to
Yep.
lose it, and but it's again, it's in that playbook that I made for myself on like
Yeah.
little tricks, little phrases, little things to say. Just be like, oh, I'll be right back. Yeah, let me go look that up. Oh, I think I have a
Yeah.
specialist that might be able to answer that I can get them on the phone. Like you can just say stuff and they'll
Yeah.
actually think you're providing a service or actually doing something. But if you need to use that phrase just to step out of the room and take a breath, it will
Right.
help. It will help
Yeah.
immensely, right? So
Yeah.
what now let's get into you a little bit. What drew you to the profession?
So I always had a love or an interest for like healthcare, if you will, like medicine and science. My grandfather, when I was growing up, had this really weird ailment. He had a bunch of weird diseases, honestly. And I grew up in Boston, or excuse me, I grew up in Massachusetts. And so he always ended up in the hospital at Mass General in Boston, which is a pretty well-known hospital, to the point that like his doctor told my dad, "Oh, I will never charge you ever to step foot in here because he's a teacher, you know, like his condition will teach so many people. So going to the hospital so frequently and being around that type of environment really normalized that. You know, I don't know like many people who aren't bothered by going to just like a human hospital, but it was very much normal for me. And then obviously my love of animals kind of melded together. And probably from like I was like maybe 12 or so, that was like, no, this is what I'm doing. 100%, no question. So it started young.
And then did you work at a veterinary clinic before vet school?
I did. I started when I was 17, and I'm really glad you brought that up actually, because I was just writing something actually, yeah, I was writing something the other day and it brought back all these memories. So I started working there when I was 17. I'm in high school. I'm so excited, right, to work in a practice. And then I start working there and the doctors were awful. They were so like I cried so many times coming home from work and I'm like, but what's funny is after a year or two of being there, all of a sudden I'm like 19 and I'm training the new adults that are coming in. You know what I mean? So like it was great. It was a great opportunity, but looking back, I'm like, that is actually something it still exists in vet med, but I would hope that it is less and less. And it's that mindset that like this is training ground. This is, you know, it's the hazing of getting into the profession and you're just like bottom, you know, like dirt on the bottom of my shoe and you just have to deal with it. And it was kind of that mentality. So it was challenging, but like nowhere in my mind did I think, oh, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. It was like, all right, it's going to suck and I'm going to cry, but I'm going to do it, you know? And it was a little traumatic actually, for sure.
I'm surprised it didn't run you off. That's crazy. But you know, that's unfortunately what you described is how I feel. A lot of early career vets, as soon as they graduate out of vet school, they get dumped into
Yeah.
clinics like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So painful. Yeah.
Did you take from that job though? Did you take the ideas? Okay, this is what I'm not going to do, or this is how I'm going to do it better when you started practicing?
Yeah. So I was just speaking with this the other day. I have a fellow friend who's a coach. She's not a veterinarian, but I, our profession, whether it's conscious of it or not, inadvertently, I think, selects for highly sensitive people. And that's an actual term. And those people are highly empathetic. They're highly, you know, they can read people really well. They can just walk into a room, they kind of get the vibe of what's going on, and it becomes very innate. You don't really realize it. But because they're so highly empathetic, it's challenging to get to receive that type of feedback from someone who's like mean and rude and abrupt. And so I was always like that, a highly sensitive person. So when I am in a clinic, especially as I did relief work, and I can tell, you know, hey, there's this like assistant and they're new, or there's a technician and they're new. And I was like, I never want to be that person that is like, oh, Dr. Parks is working today. She's awful. She's, you know, like our job is hard enough. We don't need just people having, you know, this ego driven type of approach to it's a workplace. We're all here for the greater
Yes.
good of the pets. Like, what are we doing? We're not helping each other. So, yeah, that was huge for me when I became a doctor.
Yeah, the toxic culture of clinics, right? The psychological safety that you must have. I made sure, because I was very blessed with actually three amazing mentors. The two I had during undergrad, where I worked for 5 years, and then my partner, who I actually partnered with and bought out at the practice I was at. Always wanted my opinion, always asked for ideas. And they taught me immediately and I was that blessed, how to treat the staff, how to treat the clients. And they also were talking to me. Basically, I learned through them professional sustainability. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to go on a date with your wife or your girlfriend. You need to take your vacation time. You need to, you know, do stuff. It's really cool to invest in technology because it really changes practicing. It makes it fun. It's a new toy you get to play with. Makes your life a little easier. So I love that you were able to take that away from there. With any of your patients or clients that you have now, have you found that a lot of them did not really work that in depth in veterinary clinics prior to going, or do you think that is not really an issue?
I think I think by the time I'm working with someone, they're out of school and they've been exposed to the clinics enough. So I think I think it's half and half. I've met some people that, like, I was in, by the time I graduated vet school, I had been in a veterinary hospital for almost 9 years. Like you got to see some
Correct.
things. I think it's 50-50 from what I've experienced. There's some that do the hours that we're supposed to do, and then you go to, apply to veterinary school. And then there's some people like I think myself where it was a job. So, you have all the responsibilities of a job, and yes, you learn along the way. But what I found was that when I was an associate for about 10 years, I transitioned into, we were just talking before we hit record, how we would love to do like mentoring and in clinic helping, younger doctors. And I did that for a little chunk of time. The mentor I had, who was great, he branched off and had some other hospitals, kind of a beginning of a corporate. And he's like, I just need some help with all these doctors ask me questions. He's like, I've got like 5 hospitals. So I launched into that. But what was interesting was not every doctor was a new grad, but the ones that were really easily stressed, anxious, and probably not as confident in their skills were ones that had not so great mentoring straight out of school. And I saw that straight across the board. And I'm in, you know, surgery with one of the doctors. I think she's been out maybe 6, 7, 8 years. And we're doing I think we were tacking a stomach. And I was like, which isn't my favorite. Okay, I'll just be honest. But we're in there. And
Oh,
I'm like, it's not, I'm like, it's
it's
not
the
so
best.
bad.
It's the best. It is the
I'm,
absolute coolest surgery. I absolutely love doing gastropexies. Anyways,
yeah. And I'm like up to my elbows. I'm like, see? And she's like, okay, so we finished. And I was like, all right, so what'd you think? How'd it go? And she's like, I never want to do one of those again. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not a great teacher. But in talking, it was like I said, it wasn't just her, it was even experienced doctors. It all went down to what was your experience and mentorship like straight out of school? And that was a major common denominator I saw. Yeah.
cool, because that's what I'm looking at for my dissertation. So that I'm on the right track. I'm
Yeah,
on the right track.
for sure.
Was there a moment after you graduated where your dream of being a veterinarian collided with the concept that this is going to just be about survival?
Yeah, I think it had been many years. Well, I'll back up. Not just myself, but I see in a lot of us that we like we might fail or flounder, but we keep going, right? Like we're tenacious and we have grit, which is great in theory. The problem is we also just don't recognize when we need to regroup and take a step back. And we just keep pushing ourselves. And that is what I did and why I got to the point that it was like, just going to keep my head above water at work today, not lose my mind, and make it to the end of my shift and go home. And so it wasn't about enjoying my job or the medicine and all that. It was, yeah, can I just make it through the day so that I can just not think about work when I get home? And that was like that for years, honestly.
So along your track of being a veterinarian, where did this concept of this mission you're on now really hit home? Was there a specific thing that did it, or was it accumulation of being a veterinarian?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a culmination of all of this because I left my associate position and I thought, okay, I'm going to do relief work. And my mentor, my boss at the time, great guy, he's like, okay, but you don't, you tell me that the stressful thing is being in front of clients and dealing with clients. So you're just going to go do that on a different scale. And I was like, yeah, but I can, work wherever I want. So what was interesting is when I did go to relief work, I'm going to different hospitals. Obviously, I'm working with different personalities, different people, different cultures of the practice. And I kept seeing the same thing over and over again. And it was that, little things stress us out because we were already at capacity in so many other ways. And I saw a lot of people that were in that type of survival mode, if you will. And that's when I had started doing some work on myself and things that helped me. And I would share that. And so a lot of the more support staff members would be like, then I find out they're coming to me and asking me questions like, hey, I need some help or advice on this or that. So it kind of blossomed into fulfilling the need that I kept seeing at every practice I went to.
So if so many veterinarians are having so much trouble, why does everyone stay so silent about it at work?
Yeah, I think there's still a stigma. And I was so I got to the point, I should say, I wasn't always like this, comfortable in talking about it, that I felt like that gave other people the ability to also do the same. So I remember walking into an urgent care and I had worked there a couple shifts, but I don't think I had worked with the people that were there that day. And I was talking about something. I said, "Oh, my therapist, blah, blah, blah." And they were like, they kind of all just froze and look. I'm like, "Yeah, I have a therapist. We all should have one." And ever since then, we all openly talked about what that looked like and why we would need one. And so the stigma, I think, is still there. I still see people on social media saying, like, I'm really burnt out, but I'm going for a different job now. Like, I'm changing jobs and I'm really worried about sharing that with my new employer. And I'm like, God, that is awful, And so I think no one wants to be the first one, right, to bring it up. So I think it is very prominent still. Yeah.
And that stigma is costing lives, unfortunately, which
Yeah.
is heartbreaking. How do we break that cycle? Like, what should be done to get rid of that stigma?
Yeah. I think I would hope, at least for myself, right? Like I'm trying to do what I can do in my power, and that's talk about it. I don't want to say normalize it, but it's having that open conversation about the challenges of our profession. And the other part I want to point out too is that there's a lot of innate qualities in many of us that make us more prone to that burnout and having trouble with like chronic stress. And it's not a bad thing. Like it probably got us to where we are today because we're tenacious and ambitious and we have a great work ethic and all of that. But it's not going to be the characteristics that keep us and have us thrive in the positions that we're in now. And I see that a lot.
How much does perfectionism play into the burnout piece?
So a lot. And honestly, I was burnt out for years before I even would label myself as a perfectionist. And I'll go off a little bit on this, but the perfectionism, truthfully, I thought until I was well into my adulthood, I thought it was something to strive for, right? Like we are younger, we got to get good grades in high school, so we get to good college, good grades in college, we get into vet school. So we are always striving for perfection because we've been programmed to believe that that is what gives us the result that we want. And sure, it does. But when it is really challenging that we can't turn it off. So this sounds so little, but I would catch myself. I'd be typing up discharge notes And I'm like, why am I typing this up again? Right? Like it's the same, I should have a template for this, but I'm just going to type it up. Or I could have my technician who knows the whole case and what's going on do this very quickly. But I was a perfectionist and I'm like, they're not going to do it right. It's actually going to be easy. Like I gaslit myself into thinking it's easier if I do it myself. And it really comes from a fear of failure, that I mess something up, or a fear of judgment or disappointment. And that's where the biggest problem honestly is.
Well, the third fear you forgot was the fear of cover your ass medicine that we seem to be practicing nowadays.
100%.
I mean,
yes.
and that's one of the issues. The biggest issue I have with these technicians that are going to be kind of like veterinary PAs,
Yeah.
they work underneath your license, like you're my
Right.
license.
Well, no, they
Sorry.
don't. Not mine. No, just kidding.
Yeah, no. That's not going to happen. I mean, sorry. When it comes to you doing any type of procedure or anything, don't trust you. The only other veterinarian in the whole world I trust is my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have no problem saying you can work underneath my license, but anyone else, I worked way too hard to have my reputation, my license, and everything else. And that's again another podcast that we could have.
Yeah.
Why do we valorize excessive work hours? We wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah. I think we're programmed, and I think that we've seen through the generations, right? Like I know that when I was growing up, it was like, oh, my parents, you work hard to get the things that you want. Like there's nowhere in a world that you don't work hard and you get the things you want. Like those just didn't go together. And so I think it becomes a badge of honor too. Like how many people do you hear like, oh my gosh, my schedule's so busy. I don't know. I can do this, this, and this. And it's like we say it like it's a good thing, like I'm slammed, I'm busy. And we equate not being busy or not being bombarded with stuff of like being lazy or a failure or, so it's deprogramming what we believe we have to do in order to get the desired result. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I remember when I first started out, my partner and he would see appointments and I do anesthetics. And I think one day I had 22 anesthetics or sedations or anesthetics. And I was thinking of that driving in today to the studio because I was going over what we were going to be talking about. And I was like, why the freak would I ever have done that? Was I like trying to prove a point or puff my chest out? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because the next day you could have none and you'd just be sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that because I've had times in my, you get like this perfect, like you get enough experience, you feel pretty comfortable, and then, but you're not like too burnt out, but you like really enjoy it. Like there's a time somewhere in our career we have that. And when I was working as an associate, I was probably the doctor that had the most experience. And so, yeah, I would have multiple anesthetic procedures and they'd be like, oh, can we add one on? I'm like, yeah, all right, sure, no problem. And what the problem is, or the mind fuck, is that you get validation for doing that, right? Like
You feel like Tarzan. You're like beating your
Yeah.
chest, You're like, look
Yeah.
at this.
Yeah. And your manager's happy because they got to add stuff on. Your receptionist is happy because they could tell the owner, yes, we can add that in. And so it messes with you that like we think that is what we're supposed to do,
And then you go home and you don't talk to anyone. You just kind of just sit there. Emotionally, physically, and mentally, you're exhausted. And heaven forbid one of those anesthetics didn't go well, then you have a lack of self-worth. And that equals burnout. Those three things together equal burnout. And it's like, it's crazy. It is crazy. With the people you talk to now, do you think the burnout, is it clients? Is it toxic workplace? or is it a combination?
I think everyone's experience is a little bit different. I would have to say that probably toxic workplaces are a little more popular, if you will, than challenging clients, and rightfully so, right? Like you can have a really challenging client, but eventually they leave out the door, or you can end the phone conversation. A toxic work environment, you're just in it and you're in every aspect of it. So I would say that that's probably takes more precedence.
Yeah, and one of the things that Dr. Peter Weinstein wanted me to look at, because he's on my advisory committee for my doctorate, he wanted me to look at and control for psychological safety, so we can compare and contrast stress in early career professionals who have good psychological safety and poor psychological safety. And because he's like, you could have the greatest client in the world waiting in the room, but if you're coming from a place where you're not in the right mindset because of what's going on at the workplace, it could totally destroy what's going on, in the exam room itself. And
Yeah,
it's crazy. I'm thinking about all this stuff. I was very blessed. I never was at a toxic workplace. I've always had psychological safety, but I think I came in with the mindset and the confidence that I'm going to be part of this team. No one's going to talk bad behind my back, which they probably did anyways. I just didn't catch wind of it. But I think it also how much do you think psychological safety comes off of how you portray yourself?
that's exactly where I was going to go with that. I think veterinary medicine is going to sound a little weird, but I think we have a low self-worth problem straight across the board. And
So
it's
we're already starting
teetering.
with 1/3 of the burnout triad.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just the straw that breaks the camel's back, because we also identify ourselves in our career, right? Like it becomes our identity. And so if we can't, or we have some sort of misstep in our career, now we're like, are we even good at this? Should we even be here? And we also then, well, here's the thing too, is this comes from childhood, right? Like because we were those kids that, okay, get good grades, get into a good school, we identified productivity with our self-worth. And so that's where we just continue through life doing that. And so, yeah, I think that sets us up to go down that slippery slope of burnout.
Yeah, I'm also looking at how many people truly have stress because of work versus come in to the profession because they have personal stress. Because I know you said that, we're selecting people. You said we were selecting people that have issues or before, but I'm also thinking that veterinary schools, I'm very curious how many of us already have some sort of mental health issues going into veterinary school,
Yeah,
right?
I
Or
mean,
going into practice. Like,
yes,
we're already primed. We have primed the pump. We're ready to explode when it comes
yes,
to that.
I've case in point, like that was me. And I
Right.
think it's interesting because, yes, we tend to be the hardworking overachievers that have a lot of empathy. And, like, in theory, that makes sense. But yes, it puts us more prone. And especially if we're going to school and not getting those right tools to know, to one, know that we have that, and two, know how to work with that, and then add stress into the mix. Yeah, it's like a volcano that's going to erupt at some point, not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it happens a lot of times within the first 5 years.
Yes.
After
Yep.
all that work, all that debt, all the blood, sweat, and tears. And it's heartbreaking
I
because
know.
you and I both love the profession immensely and we think it's amazing. And it comes down to, you know, what are we going to do so the older generation or the leaders of these veterinary hospitals don't punish these professionals that really are having mental issues?
Yeah. Well, I think two parts. One is that the recognition that we can't just keep sweeping this under the rug. There's obviously a lot of, this isn't isolated, it's widespread. So we have to recognize something to know, in order to know how to, I think, manage and deal with it. And two, though, our younger generation, you know, you are asking for, and I think this has changed even since I was in school, but like the mentorship and the help and continuing to not even just ask, but continuing to demand that that need gets met. And that only benefits all of us too, and I think that it's hard. I remember my first few years out of school. God, I stopped so many things, right? And
Yep.
it was an emotional roller coaster. And so I feel for those people, but it's okay. We all know about it. Like now we have to start actually taking a stand and doing something about it.
Yeah. So how do we get these guys to stop? Do you have any clues? Do you have any recommendations on that? Or is that just still a work in progress with this whole profession?
Well, my biggest thing that I tell my clients is I can't, Dr. G, I can't change what you say, who you say it to, what you think, right? No matter what I would try. So uh, all of us, or many of us, are so focused, especially when you're really burnt out, on, well, they don't understand, and this person is rude to me, and this client's an asshole, and 100%, right? But can you control that? No, right? So take a step back. I'm looking at myself. How can and I don't mean like people being rude to you is okay. That's 100% not what I mean. Address
Correct.
it, office manager, like fire client, whatever has to be done, 100% deal with that. But showing up for yourself of, okay, like I start to get really analytical about it. Like, oh, that client was upset at me. I wonder, oh, maybe this is like they're really upset about their pet being sick. It's coming to me, they're taking it out on me. Or I can see why they are upset. They're frustrated, but it wasn't directed at me. And it's hard to do that. But
It is.
that's where I go to, because I think, again, we can't change how other people think and feel, but I would hope that if we can have a certain level of, like self-awareness, but also like, hey, I'm not going to stand to be treated like that. Like if we can all have some minimal level, then we're raising the overall collective on what's acceptable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, but it's not an easy answer.
No.
It isn't. It isn't because I mean, you have to get the majority of the profession to want to make that change,
Right.
not a handful.
Right.
And as we've discussed before, veterinarians don't like change. They don't. They don't.
Yeah.
From the top down, they just don't. They don't. And the generational issue, and I actually pump my chest here. I'm actually starting a series in my newsletter I'm calling it Genetrics, which is I'm going to use I'm going to look at I'm going to measure the difference in generations as far as different views on different things.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the olders saying, "Oh, these kids today have no grit; they don't want to work," and you have the youngers coming out saying, "I'm not going to work 80 hours a week for only $100,000 a year." How do we bring the two parties together on that?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I've been on both ends of that spectrum. Um, I'll share actually a little story. When I was in practice and started in practice, I was a newer grad. That was my mindset. Like that's how I was brought up. You work hard, you just shut up, you just, do everything you can, bend over backwards, customer's always right. And then we hired a doctor. I think I'd been in practice maybe 5 or 6 years when she started. And she was more of like the life work balance, as as we say. And she didn't really put up with crap from clients, and not in a rude way at all. Like she was just like, hey, I don't want to see this client because they called me X, Y, and Z. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember thinking, oh, just suck it up. Like it's not a big deal. And it took me a while. Then I realized like she's onto something here. And yeah, I don't want to be treated like crap either, or had said things said about me. So I think it's having an open mind in the sense that we don't like what is the end result? We want a better profession. We want to help more pets, right? Does it behoove me as someone who graduated 16 years ago to be stuck in my ways and fight, if you will, with the younger generation? Like that doesn't benefit anyone. For
No.
what, myself, you know? So I think having an open mind to look at what's the overall, like we all have the same, I would hope, the same goal in mind, and focusing towards that is key.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess it would be great if the leadership of our profession would create a vision statement with that goal.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I do think,
I say that to call out the
yeah,
leadership of our profession, because I mean, the only goal I know is above all, do no harm.
right.
Right?
Right.
That's the vision, that's the goal, that's the mission.
Yeah.
But you know, I love the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing now, but it also frustrates the hell out of me because you're finding all the gaps and all the loops and all these issues that aren't being addressed, and they're continuously not being addressed. And until you sit down and really look at all the research that's been done, it's like the same research been done for 15, 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. What are we doing with that? We're
Right.
just, yeah.
It's just sitting there they're sitting there as bookends on the
Yeah.
shelves, basically.
Yeah. 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 Well, and like what we were talking about before too, I always, yeah, I go back to the schools too. And I mean, things have changed a lot since I was in vet school, but I just imagine if the things that I know now, if I knew even half of that coming out of school, I would have been much more prepared. And the thing that I hate is if I hear one more person say, well, you're just going to get burnout because that's just part of it. Like it's going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. I'm like, when did we
Let's
decide that that was okay?
let's prime that pump a little more.
Right. What?
Oh my gosh. So are you on the side that you believe that more general practitioners should be teaching vet school?
That would close that gap hugely. Now, you know, in a perfect world, you'd have that's the specialist, right? Like we need to know that, yeah, there's like a good way to do things, but we also need to know that there's a way to do things that is acceptable and puts us more in practice, like that. Anyone can open a book and read it. It's just like, what am I going to do when this client's staring at me and they have $100 and their cat has a hole in its face? Like, tell me what to
But
do with that.
but that's the thing. The thing is, like, we need to redefine gold standard
Yeah.
now, in my opinion, because
Yes.
yes, the gold standard is incredible, but I mean, let's say you had 20 clients. What percentage, what number of those 20 clients would be able to do the gold standard on every single case you saw?
Yeah, that might be zero, depending on where you're at and what you're practicing, honestly,
Exactly, zero. But yet we're training all these young career professionals that come out of school with the gold standard.
Right.
And of course, it's easy to do a gold standard when you're at doing an intern or doing an internship at a specialty clinic, or you're at a veterinary school, your 4th year rotation, because these clients are ready to do all that because they've done
Right.
everything else.
Right.
So,
Right.
but it's like I always, it's so, I talk to a lot of early career veterinarians. I'm always like, yeah, the gold standard's awesome, but good luck, Yeah,
Well, and I'll add to that too. What it's not even just that, it's I don't even know what the word is, but almost like the idea that if you don't do the gold standard or your client won't, like you're a bad vet, or like, or you're going to get sued, and there's that little inklings of that out there as well. So then we get newer doctors that are like I don't know what to do. One, because I've always done the gold standard. I know the gold standard, but now I'm trying to refer it maybe to a specialist and they're
For the
breathing down
gold
my
standard.
neck for the gold
Yeah.
standard. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a real world stuff we need for sure.
Well, I also think GPs can do the gold standard. I mean, there's mobile surgeons, there's mobile ultrasound, there's mobile CT, at least in the big cities, right? I'm not
Right.
talking about the rural areas, but those still come with a price tag.
Yeah.
And we've made owning a pet a luxury item. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
And I think this sounds awful for me to say. I hope we get another recession, because I think that's going to be the wake-up call that veterinary medicine needs.
Yeah.
But the problem is that animals will suffer because of it.
I know. I know. Well, I'll just throw it out there because I know you're going to love this, but from what I've seen, I can't say I'm like on the front lines with this, but corporate medicine and the markup for healthcare for pets is not contingent with the inflation that we've experienced. Like it's,
You mean 25% every quarter?
yeah, yes, yes. And it's not just a couple hospitals. I'm hearing this everywhere. So
Everywhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's because the spreadsheet tells them that's what they need to do.
Listen, go put on a pair of scrubs. We're gonna go back. I'm gonna have you wrestle that 100-pound Great Dane that's trying to eat you. You're gonna do a nail trim, but you also need to be running that fecal float at the same time and spitting the urine. And then if you want to get surgery prepped, if you can do that, then we could talk about spreadsheets, okay?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, their Harvard MBA did not teach them that.
No.
It also,
Yeah, no.
and the problem is a lot of these MBA programs, because I went through one, do not teach them a lot about leadership as well. And that's
Interesting.
what, yeah, no, I mean, that's why, and I'm shout out to Pepperdine, phenomenal at creating world leaders who want change. That's their whole mantra there. And it was absolutely incredible. And the one class I thought I was going to hate was actually the organizational behavior class. I'm like, why am I doing this? This sounds like HR.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Loved it. Loved it. Hated accounting, hated business law, hated marketing, hated this, hated that. Actually, I take that back. I actually am marketing now. Loved my professor for marketing, just hated all the I hated working with clients because there you got to work with actual corporations and they wouldn't listen to a single thing you said. And I was like, oh my God, back in a vet clinic again?
Funny
I
how
guess
things are the same.
that's how I was triggered at the time because, I was coming to the end of my career. But now I love it, and it all depends on how you market yourself and build your own brand. But again, I can do building your brand. That's a great podcast.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go. What do you think it's harder? Being a rural solo practitioner 24/7 or a veterinarian that's living in a city having to deal with stressful clients and Yelp reviews?
I would say, first of all, both really, really hard. I would say the solo vet that's rural because that person that's in the city, and I'm not trying to diminish this at all, both of those trigger me to not want to do either, to be in either of those situations, honestly.
Right.
But what I hear a lot is that solo vet now is the one in the community. So if they don't go see that cow at 3 a.m. or go 20 miles in the other direction for that colicky horse, they're the bad guy. In a city,
they're not compassionate.
yeah, God forbid, they can't be in two places at once. But that one in the city, someone doesn't like you, whatever, they're going down the street. Not to say that that's any easier, but there's that much more, just a different dynamic for that rural solo vet who literally feels like they are trying to hold that community together. And God forbid someone says, some sort of smear campaign online about them, that's even more damaging, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how much that would happen out in rural, but I mean, in one of my podcasts, I was talking with another veterinarian that used to work down the street from me. And, I was like, well, the problem is nowadays, if like you make one client happy, they tell 10 people. You piss off one client, they tell the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't really think much about online reviews until my daughters were able to see online reviews. And they'd be like, Daddy, what are they talking about? And I'm like, And I just told him, and I mean, it's not really politically correct to say this, but I don't really care. I'm like, honey, not all people that own an animal are crazy, but everyone who's crazy owns an animal.
That is pretty accurate. Yes.
Right. But that's and it helped me explain it to them. But that's when those reviews really got to me. And then obviously if you advertise with Yelp, they would always have a way to filter out all the bad ones or
Yes.
hide them on the bottom.
That's so messed up. When I learned that, I was like, wait, what? And the person, whoever does more reviews gets higher on the list, regardless of if you're reviewing your hairdresser or the car mechanic, and then they're going to review the vet. I'm like, what the heck is this? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how do you yeah, I'm a social influencer on Yelp. I mean, I don't,
Right.
I'm sorry. I guess everyone has a job. Um, so with your burnout that you've been doing, I'm pretty sure you've been reading about other professions, correct?
Mhm.
Do you believe other professions such as firemen, doctors, nurses, first responders, do you think they have a grasp on the burnout problem?
I think they do to some degree. I think our professions all have a little bit different variation in the degree of burnout. And like I would say, and this is more of a blanket statement, but someone in human healthcare doesn't have those conversations that we have about money with clients and kind of that, disconnect, emotional disconnect that happens with that. And so I think it's burnout. I think it's in a different way. But again, most of those professions are empathetic, people that want to help others, they're caregivers, it's a lot of those same qualities come up. And so they're probably, yeah, I think there's a lot of aspects of that burnout that are very similar.
So for the brand new veterinarian that is listening right now, what is one habit you would want for them to pick up?
Just one? Okay.
Oh, you
Um,
could, yeah. What is the biggest one? And you can give us a whole bunch because for sure
yeah.
we're here to
Um,
help.
yeah. So the biggest thing, and when you get to the point that you're really burnt out, a lot of this is like in one ear and out the other, and you just kind of want to throat punch someone. So it's nice to hear this before you get really stressed out. Because I think if someone told me this when I was really burnt out, I'd be like, okay, you can go screw yourself. Thank you very much. But, okay, here's this would be my number one and this people are a little controversial, but your job as a veterinarian is not to cure their pet. Does that happen based off of your education and expertise and knowledge, and you make very educated guesses or decisions or recommendations, and their pet gets better? Yes. If the pet doesn't get better, does that mean you failed at your job? No, not necessarily. There's a lot of other factors in that. I say that to newer grads because it gives us a little bit of a buffer to step back from feeling just so like owning the whole thing. Like the pet took a medicine and had a reaction. How are you going to know? You didn't know that. And that's the first thing we do is we beat ourselves up. I should have known that. Like you can't look at the decisions and the experience that you have now with, you can't go back in time. Hindsight's always 2020. And so you have information now that you didn't have back then. So,
Yeah.
having a little bit of that buffer to be like, okay, I'm not a, I'm not horrible. I'm not a terrible doctor, but it is not also like if things go sideways, there's so many variables. Did the client give the meds? Did they keep the e-collar on? Did they, it's very, we all been there
I swear,
before.
Doc, I did. That e-collar never came off. I don't know how you just didn't do the proper sutures.
So tell me though, because I've had that and I felt like a lot of shame because I felt like I didn't do a good job. And it's like very obvious. The owner's like, I didn't keep the e-collar on, but then they're yelling at you that the sutures came out. And like, I'm not the only one that has a story like that, but it's true. Like we have to take a step back and be like, hold on,
Well, I guess the real conversation on that comes, do you charge the researcher or not?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did in the case that I'm thinking of, and I would like scurry back to my office because I didn't want to hear if there was any bitching and complaining from the client. I was just it gutted me. Like I had a physical reaction to it. So, but yeah, like if I had awareness of that, that I think is a great first step for a new grad. But the other big thing I would say is that if you are the type of person who you are bending over backwards for clients to the point that you're putting your own needs last and you're stressed out and frustrated, but yet you don't want, you're not comfortable sitting down and addressing that with supervisor, manager, owner, whatever. It's that 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 needs to change because that's only going to get worse. And that's where I got really resentful when I was burnt out, but I never shared it with anyone, but I would go home and complain and vent. And it really isn't doing the job that we think it is. You need to get comfortable enough to have that conversation. And that I think is hard.
So how does a younger veterinarian set boundaries without being labeled as lazy or uncommitted?
So I think that the first step of that is who cares what someone else says? But we
What
do.
if it's your boss who gives you a paycheck?
You, I mean, they can say whatever they want, right? There's a way to do it. Let's put it this way, the person that needs to set boundaries is, if you're looking at the video, they're down here, right? Like this is maybe the average person. We're down here. So when we set boundaries, we're just bringing ourselves up to where maybe the average person is, but it feels so uncomfortable because we're not used to it. And we fear the judgment and we fear that we're being a complainer and we should just be the type of person that is easygoing. And I think when you can, it has to come from a place of, hey doc, I need to talk to you about something. I'm staying 2 hours late after work every night. Like this isn't feasible for me. How can we make this change? How can we make this so that it's feasible for you as a business and me as an employee? And that sounds a lot better than, listen, I don't know. I'm staying 2 hours after. It's my husband's mad. I can't do this anymore. This is awful. The delivery obviously is important, but it's not impossible to do.
Are there any special phrases that you coach people to use?
I love the I statements that you always hear. I was talking to a veterinarian not that long ago, and they were having trouble with the support staff. And they're like, they keep messing up. And I'm like, listen, you need to do it like this. And I said, the first thing you want to do is what you need. Instead of saying you need to do it like this, hey, I would love it. I need you to be able to do X, Y, and Z. This would really help me out. So it takes away that pressure of feeling like you're accusing someone. And I also love we're a team, not you need to learn how to do it. We need to come up with a better solution. Like that just disarms the whole situation, I think, makes it a big difference.
And also, when it comes to support staff, I think the veterinarians really underutilize
Yes.
them, and you were guilty of that as well. I have a hack that I used. I'm interested to see what hack you used that veterinarians can start using tomorrow, implementing tomorrow.
Yeah. So all right. So there's two parts to that. One is I get for those who underutilize support staff, because when I was doing relief, I didn't know what I was getting. I would go into a practice and I'm in Florida, so you don't have to be certified. And I kind of had to learn really quick, like who's capable of doing something and who is not. But when you find those people and you can train them really well, it is so beneficial. I've experienced that the support staff members really enjoy having more bandwidth of their profession. And I think it's, again, approaching it with a collective, like it's us versus the problem, not us versus each other. And if you find a really good seasoned RVT, CVT, they've saved my ass more times than I can count.
Yes.
And it's really like, hey, tell me what you know. Like I don't have to feel like I'm the doctor, I know everything. No, I think it's being open and being willing to learn regardless of who it's from.
Yeah. The one I was trained with and the one that worked for me is I walked around with $10 in quarters in my pocket. And every time a technician caught me doing something that they could do, I had to give them a quarter.
I love that. I
You learn
love
pretty
that.
quick.
Yeah.
You learn pretty quick. When you go through about $50, $60 in a couple days,
You're like, what
you're
am I
like,
even doing?
yeah, I know. I'm working against myself here. But it does teach you. I mean, and I agree with you 1000%. And I also think another great support staff to work with is the support staff person who wants to go to vet school,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to learn and they will learn and they will learn and they'll absorb stuff out of you like a sponge,
Yep.
and they actually will start to mimic what you're doing.
Yes.
And it's one of the greatest things ever.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very true. And yeah, utilize them to your benefit for sure.
Yeah. Is there what's a workflow hack that you can think of?
I love templates. Templates. I think that, now that obviously most practices are digital and don't have paper records, I won't say all, but most. Any sort of template that even has, like, if it's a female pet or a male pet, like literally has those words changed. So the least amount that you have to change something saves so much time. And there are a lot of programs. I used Avamark years ago, and there's like a keystroke that you'll do that has a specific word, like dental, and you hit it and it gives you whatever that paragraph that you want someone to like. Those are so underutilized. And then you don't have that feeling of like, oh, I didn't cover my ass. Like I probably should have just typed them a novel. And it's like it's all there. Those are the biggest ones that I like.
Yeah, I started Impromed in 2007, and we went
Hmm.
paperless, like ripped the Band-Aid off. And I mean, Impromed and Avamark were two competitors at the time. But the only problem with the Impromed is we got it and it's a blank slate and you had to program it. But I
Mm,
did exactly that. It was
yeah.
like, especially in the surgeries, it was like,
Yes.
what surgery did you do? You just click on it, and then there was these little tildes, and you could just hit F8
Yep.
and it would go to each tilde and you just put it in really quick and you're done. And
Yes.
then it also makes your invoice for you.
Well, perfect.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Well,
it was great.
I think too, the other one, almost kind of what we were talking about before, is empowering your support staff to take some of those phone calls that a doctor doesn't need to have. And
Yeah, good luck with that one.
it
Good
takes
luck.
time, right? Like you have to,
Yeah, it does.
I couldn't,
That's more of like a 6 month to a 1 year
yeah,
plan.
I couldn't really do it on relief because I, again, didn't always know the person. But if you have someone that's really good, that saves a lot of time. Yeah, and stress.
So if a young veterinarian feels burnout creeping in, what's the one internal question they should ask themselves?
I think that question is, what do I need? Sounds very easy, but what do I need right now in this moment? Like right now. Because a lot of times we ignore what our body's telling us. Like, do I have pain in my neck? Am I getting a headache? Do I have GI issues? Like, and we just ignore it and keep going. Same thing with our emotions and what we're feeling is burnt out. We just think it's going to go away or we think we'll deal with it later. So the one thing is just like, what do I need right now in this moment? And to kind of like just bringing you back to the present moment of like, what can I do for myself right now? But also know that the burnout isn't going to just go away. There has to be something that changes in order to not feel that way.
Is there one thing that veterinary practice owners could do or even academians could do that would cause the biggest ripple effect for this burnout piece?
Yeah, I think I'm not a big fan of these HR approved anti-burnout like workshops. They're very generic and they're very surface level. So having, whether it's a practice owner or if you have a really great manager, sitting down one-on-one with every employee, because everyone needs something a little bit different. Things that stress one person out won't be the one that stresses someone else out. And so identifying what that is and where that person would benefit from more support is such a tailored approach that could have, I think, a huge impact. And truthfully, you can do that in the academia level too. I don't know if that's ever been done, but listening to what your students are experiencing and then making programs based off of that, that would be the proactive approach to something like that.
Basically, listening to those stakeholders is
Yeah,
what you're saying.
absolutely.
Listening. Yeah. And listening and maybe make a plan or of some sort, because a lot of them don't want to listen because that's the way we've been doing it.
Right. Right. Like, and even with myself, like I talk to people and I'm still hear stuff from people that I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I didn't experience that, but you did. And so, it's not cookie cutter by any means.
No, it isn't. Not at all. If you could have one mantra that every veterinarian in the world would repeat after you, what would it be?
This is awful, but my job is not to cure your pet. With That's awful, isn't it? But from what I said before, it
Yeah.
puts things into perspective. It puts a buffer and it makes it not seem so close to you so that you can have your emotions, have your life, and have your career, and not have one hugely affect the other negatively.
That's one heck of a mantra.
I don't know if I should get that on a shirt. Probably wouldn't sell that great, but
It's going to need to be a 3X or else no one's going to be able to read it.
my other one I was gonna say, which I don't think is great either, but I like keep going. Just keep going. But that's also not a great one for burnout. Don't keep going. We need to do something
Right.
about it, Yeah.
But well, the problem is keep going has been the mantra forever.
I know. Yeah.
And that's what kind of got us into this situation.
Agreed.
So last question here. Finish this line for us. Veterinary medicine doesn't need work-life balance. It needs blank.
Yeah, life, career, integration, and sustainability. And
Wow.
notice I
Like
put
that.
life first.
Yes.
Because yeah, there's work, but literally your life comes first.
Right. And whatever that is, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It needs to come first.
Yeah.
It's what you value to come first.
Yes.
Right. Work is just to help you help. I always looked at it as work as a way to help you achieve your values and your life.
Yeah.
It's just, it's how you get there. But your life is what you need to live. It's short. We only have one.
Right.
And there's way too much that, I made sure I didn't miss much of my kids growing up. I was there for everything, but there's a lot of veterinarians who don't have that blessing of being able to be there for everything. And that needs to come first.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And guess what? Your clients will understand that. If you're like, hey, I just got, a phone call from school, I have to go. They understand that because chances are they have had kids, they probably have grandkids, or they know people who have, and they understand where that's coming from. And if that client doesn't understand, that client needs to be fired.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're sick, like really sick, like take a sick day. I still know so many people that feel so, they just feel so guilty about that. And they're like, what about the clients? I'm like, listen, unless you're the last veterinarian on this earth and their pet has an issue, it's going to get care. Like that's their responsibility. You have to take care of yourself.
Or else you won't be able to take care of their pet next time.
Exactly. Yep.
Dr. Parks, it's been amazing talking to you. I love that you are trying to make it as clear as day that there you come first, and it's okay to say if you're having a problem. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can reach me on Instagram. It's at the Stress and Burnout Coach, all underscore between those words, or my website is thestressandburnoutcoach.com.
Amazing. Have you written any articles yet?
I actually have one coming out tomorrow. It's really funny you say that. Um, and I'll post it on my Instagram. It's like 5 top tips to beat burnout, actually.
I would love to read that.
Yeah, I'll
That
send
would
it
be
to you.
amazing. Awesome. And I'll put the link here for people just to click on it as well.
Perfect.
So thank you so much for being here. Please stay on after. But thank you everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Doc.
You got it.